Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining and watching this video. Today's topic is about adaptive leadership. This is who I am. This is how we can be contacted. And let's get started. These are going to be the topics that we discuss today. Feel free to stop the video to review at your own pace. But before we get started, always like to check in to find out what you know about adaptive leadership without trying to really to define it. What thoughts come to mind? Feel free to stop the video. And let's just take a quick look. So if we look at adaptive leadership, what it is and what it is not. Adaptive leadership, if we're looking at from approach to change or problem solving or decision making, right here on the left, adaptive leadership embraces and navigates through ambiguity and uncertainty. It doesn't resist change, right? It encourages collaboration and decision making, right? It does not. It is not a centralized decision making without really considering diverse inputs, right? It's not a rigid or unwilling to modify strategies type of approach, things like that. So these are just a couple of thoughts about what adaptive leadership is and what it is not. So, understanding the foundations of adaptive leadership. So, adaptive leadership is really or has really gained attention for its effectiveness in dealing with the complex and rapidly changing environments, right? Emphasizing the ability to guide through uncertainty rather than simply relying on that traditional authority, hierarchy, top-down driven decision making, right? The foundations of adaptive leadership lie in its recognizing that problems are not always so clear-cut, necessitating that skillful diagnosis of the underlying causes and an openness to adaptive change for progress. It does encourage reframing problems, promoting open dialogue, and fostering that culture of simply experimentation and exploration, right? Adaptive leaders understand the importance of managing that heat that's generated by change, acknowledging that resistance and conflicts are natural responses. That can be that energy from the resistance can be harnessed to drive the desired transformation. This involves addressing challenges through inclusivity and being open and harnessing that diverse viewpoints that may come your way as a result of some type of change. Leadership humility. Leadership humility is really an often overlooked aspect of adaptive leadership. It emphasizes on the leaders' self-awareness and their ability to manage their anxiety. Leaders must acknowledge that what their limitations are. They must be open to learning from other people and challenge the traditional notions of the leader as sole decision maker. Right? I recognize this is what we've always done. I recognize this is the hierarchical structure. However, I have another way of looking at it. So it's kind of that, right? Adaptive leadership really does encourage a distributive form of leadership, drawing on experiences from various sources and valuing different viewpoints. It creates an inclusive space where everyone can express themselves, expanding the range of viable options and challenging the traditional hierarchy structure once again. The very essence, really, of adaptive leadership is inclusive because it values the different perspectives and creates that space where everyone can express themselves, emphasize self-awareness and openness, fostering that culture that embraces diversity and encourage continuous improvement. Flexibility and resilience, keywords. Flexibility and resilience is really that mastering the foundations of adaptive leadership is crucial in today's world, moving away from that rigid top-down structure that we talked about earlier, and really embracing on things like flexibility and learning and being more resilient, right? Leaders that are well-versed in adaptive leadership principles can guide their teams through uncertainty, ultimately by focusing on the context, providing a deep dive or diagnosis, participating in experimentation or exploration, understanding their levels of self-awareness. They can really facilitate that productive dialogue that fosters that culture of continuous improvement. Adaptive leadership and adaptive leaders become adept at driving meaningful change, even in the face of complex challenges, combining a deep level of understanding and their environment with the ability to inspire and involve others, ultimately creating that leadership approach effectiveness. Now, if we take a look at the questions on the screen, please feel free to pause the video, review the questions, have a discussion about the questions, formulate answers about the questions, right? Before you move on to the next session. Differentiating between adaptive and technical challenge. It is so important that the leader can distinguish between adaptive and technical challenge. Recognizing the differences between adaptive and technical challenges is foundational for effective problem solving and your abilities to lead, as each type demands a distinct approach and strategies for them to be successful. Give you an example here. For technical challenges, which involve well-defined problems, well-established solutions, relying on the leader's expertise and experience to implement the straightforward, well-planned solutions using existing knowledge and resources, such as, for instance, implementing a new software or optimizing the manufacturing or supply chain processes, right? There are going to be some very well-defined, structured ways to approach those issues. But in contrast, adaptive challenges are more complex, requiring a deeper examination of underlying values, underlying beliefs, and behaviors. These types of challenges really lack that pre-existing solution and demand a shift in the organizational culture. So the leaders must engage in open dialogue, encourage learning, experimentation, and navigating uncertainty, as, for instance, seen in the scenario like leading a team through the organizational restructure. There are no blueprints on how to do that effectively. So, technical challenges, strategies. So the leader can draw upon best practices and establish guidelines to really efficiently navigate these technical challenges. They got the book, they got the blueprint, the steps, because they involve that quantifiable tasks with clear criteria for success, relying on their expertise and a well-defined structured approach, right? But the adaptive challenge strategies, how are you going to deal with the uncertainty or the unknowns, right? Addressing adaptive challenges demand a different set of skills and strategies, ultimately involving changing people's attitudes and behaviors and engaging them in that open dialogue that we want, right? Encouraging the learning and the experimentation and the fostering of collaborative environments. Leaders must navigate complexity. They must navigate ambiguity and conflicting value. And that's kind of like seen in, for instance, a scenario like a major, organizational restructure, right? Critical differentiations. Leaders must recognize that the nature of the challenge that they're currently facing and to apply the appropriate strategy to dealing with those uncertainties. With technical challenges addressed through existing knowledge and methods, while adaptive challenges require the leaders to have a nuanced understanding of human dynamics and the willingness to question the known assumptions and a capacity really to navigate uncertainty. So a skilled leader, very important here. A skilled leader understands the distinction between the two types of challenges and is equipped to guide their teams really towards the successful outcomes, regardless of the complexity, by simply applying the right strategies and approaches to addressing either a technical or an adaptive change or challenge. So let's take a look at the questions as you see here. Again, feel free to pause the recording to review the questions and have some answers and have an open discussion with your team about this particular section. Exploring the role of adaptive leader in a BUCA, a VUCA world, right? As you see there, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, VUCA. This term VUCA really originated from military terminology, believe it or not, and specifically in the American military education system, highlighting the complexity or the unpredictability of the strategic decision-making during combat situations. The acronym VUCA gained that popularity in the 90s and really transitioned into the business landscape and leadership, business leadership discussions as academics recognize the parallels between the unpredictable natures of military operations and the rapidly changing corporate landscapes, right? Beyond the military, the VUCA paradigm is applied now in various fields, offering a concise way to convey the challenges of adapting to uncertainty and complicated circumstances, while promoting the need for flexible and adaptable responses. VOCA, the role significance. So in VUCA world, adaptive leadership really becomes crucial in traditional models because the traditional models struggle with the rapid and unpredictable changes that occur in, national, international, and the global business landscapes. That traditional model of leadership is having a very difficult time. So adaptive leaders excel in uncertain conditions, utilizing their very unique skill sets to guide their teams through the ever-shifting dynamics of an unpredictable, dynamic VUCA environment. Adaptive leaders in a volatile, uncertain, complex, or ambiguous world serve, really as their organizations or their teams navigate and sense makers, ultimately embracing the volatility and uncertainty of opportunities as opportunities for growth and innovation, because they can correctly interpret the complex information, actionable insights. Adaptive leaders are well equipped to address complexity, managing intricate relationships, identifying patterns within the current chaos, right? And fostering collaboration and navigate multifaceted problems effectively. They have to be comfortable with ambiguity. In dealing with ambiguity, Adaptive leaders shine by making decisions without having complete information. They can encourage a culture of experimentation and learning from failure and prioritizing continuous development for themselves and their teams. The adaptability of these leaders extend beyond simple problem solving to manage diverse teams, creating a dynamic and resilient workforce capable of thriving in an uncertain environment. So let's talk about the questions. Again, feel free to stop the video to review the questions, have a conversation about the questions, and then come up with some responses to the questions, right? And finally, let's talk about the developing self-awareness as an adaptive leader. This is so important. Self-awareness is a foundational step for becoming an effective adaptive leader because it involves the understanding of one's strengths and weaknesses, forming the basis for making informed decisions, building strong relationships, and leading with authenticity. Adaptive leaders with self-awareness recognize their biases and their limitations, enabling them to make more objective decisions. They understand how emotions influence their leadership styles, and they manage their responses to high-pressure situations using emotional intelligence. So this introspective journey empowers leaders to acknowledge their impacts on others, fostering a more composed and rational approach, and allowing them to build positive relationships with their team members. Self-aware, adaptive leaders recognize triggers and emotional reactions. They are better positioned to empathize with their teams, relate to their team members' feelings, and provide that support necessary to cultivate a positive working environment that enhances employee engagement and employee satisfaction. Self-aware leaders are open to feedback. They are willing to seek input from other members of their team, fostering a collaborative atmosphere that also encourages continuous improvement and contributes to the overall organizational successes. These leaders align their behaviors with their values, ultimately setting an example of consistency between their words, their deeds, their actions. They are building trust and inspiring a culture of integrity and accountability. Continuous growth and learning cultures cannot be understated. A self-aware leader can identify areas for personal growth and development. They actively seek opportunities to enhance their skills, which creates a rippling effect throughout the organization and their team members and motivates others to pursue their developmental journeys. Now, this commitment to growth really does contribute to the culture of continuous learning, where innovation really flourishes, collaboration really thrives, and individuals are empowered to reach their full potential. Developing self-awareness is a critical journey for aspiring adaptive leaders. So laying the foundation for effective decision-making, emotional intelligence, relationship building, enable them to navigate uncertainty, adapt to change, and lead with authenticity. So let's take a look at the questions again. Feel free to pause the video at any time to review the questions, come up with some answers, have some discussions with your team members about the questions. These are the topics we discussed today. This is what a micro-learning certificate looks like. Your name would go here with this particular micro-learning session completion. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Again, thank you all for checking out the video. More information can be found on mvptrainingsolutions.com. We look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day.